Whatever you say, Sam.
Apparently the engineering and
No, I
didn't work.
always put stuff on loose, and this way I line it all the way up. It's finger tight, and I can move it all around.
Yeah, but there's nothing welded onto the car, so what are you going to move?
What's that?
You'll be moving for hours.
Nah.
Welcome to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. On this episode of Sam's Garage, Sam, Kevin, and Travis complete the rear suspension upgrade on the Jeep Wrangler. Sam and Doug install the new chrome front bumper on the '57 Thunderbird. Nora and Nelson stop by to show us how a torque converter works. And then help Sam install the torque converter in his '49 Chevy pickup. Sam and the Lokar team get ready to install the rear suspension kit from TerraFlex on Kevin's Jeep Wrangler. In the previous episode, we saw the guys install the new front suspension. The long arm suspension will leave plenty of room for the upgraded shocks.
So this week, Travis and Kevin and I are going to be installing the long arm suspension kit from TerraFlex in the rear. We're going to have to remove the rear differential axle just like we did the front.
Same thing, rinse and repeat.
Except this time we have to remove the gas tank. And when you do that, take that gas tank into another room, because when you use the plasma cutter, you don't want the vapors of the gas tank to explode in the shop, right?
Absolutely not.
That would be a bad day, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
All right, so we got the rear end out. It was actually pretty easy because this Jeep is new. Nothing was stuck and rusted in place. Now we're going to take the gas tank out. Be very careful with your evap lines. They're all plastic. Take your time. Those clips push in, but they do have locking clips. We got those out. We're going to remove the rubber from the hard line. That way we don't spill any gas. This thing is plumb full. All right, we're going to bring it out, take it outside, then we'll start cutting everything up. All right, so we got all the brackets cut off. Travis once again did a very good job cutting everything, grinding everything. So now what we're gonna do is install the new brackets, right?
Yep, and then we'll put the arms in, we'll reverse everything we did, taking it out. Make sure we get everything hooked up, because if we miss something on that gas tank, it's gonna be a long day.
Long day. Gas tank goes in first, then we're gonna put the rear end in and move forward from there. Well, guys, that was not as bad as it was with the front, right?
Right.
There's a lot more room in there once we got that gas tank out.
And that gas tank being so full, not a bit of gas spilt except for the fuel lines onto your face. But you're okay.
Right here.
I'm okay.
This saved us out of that.
That thing really is nice.
Yeah.
And so the reason why we have the Jeep in the situation that it's in is because we're doing a long-term project on this. So this week and last week we got the TerraFlex long arms in. Next week we're going to be doing inner fender liners, and we're going to be continuing on with suspension, and you have axles coming.
Yeah, hopefully we get those 1-ton axles from TerraFlex soon, so we don't have to keep these in here too long, and I can get the 40s on there and not have to worry about breaking anything.
Absolutely. And when you're doing this to the Jeep, there's going to be a lot of dangerous moments, so stop, slow down, make sure things are safe so you don't hurt yourself at home.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating.
You went and got yourself new bumpers from Bumper Depot because the old one, the front one, had a dent in it, right?
Yeah, it had a dent and it needed a little bit of work. They were old, Sam. They just need to be re-chromed. They had some in stock. That was absolutely wonderful. Everybody else that I spoke to was way out there as far as delivery, and the quality looks great. You know, Sam and I'm really hoping now we're doing something that we don't run into a lot of issues. This looks pretty good. Told you guys before, when you're doing a build like this, you're always running into things that you just don't expect. And we have run into our fair share.
We have, but this one's gonna involve welding, so anything could happen.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put the two wings on, make this a one-piece bumper. We're gonna put our lights in place, and then Joe made us new brackets to go with the bumpers to weld onto your new frame.
That looks good. No, we're getting everything lined out. What we've got to do is we've got to weld the brackets on the frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to get nuts and bolts. We're going to go ahead and bolt the brackets on the bumper. Then we're going to line it up. Then we'll tack it into position, see if we like it. We've got to make sure that we've got a lot of play on the bolt so we can adjust everything around to get it lined in. It's actually just a tad low.
You are a tad low. She's a tad high.
Yeah, that's good. But I think that can all be adjusted right there. Do you want to tighten that up, Sam?
Tighten what up?
The nuts and bolts. Because I know we're about in the right position here. And see if it stays. What we did is we took the bumper and then we had to make brackets and get everything to weld up to the frame. We had to grind everything off to make sure when you get the weld, you don't want to have any rust or anything on it. You have that oxide and you won't get real good penetration onto it. We set everything in place. We put blue tape on it. The blue tape was so we don't scratch the paint. After we're done welding it and mounting it, which is what we have now, we'll loosen the bumper off, we'll take it off. Then we'll go ahead and we'll remove all the tape, and then we'll go ahead and put it back into position. It takes a few minutes to do this, but when it comes out, it just looks fabulous. We really wanted to make sure that we had the original style bumpers chrome because, you know, back in the 50s, the chrome they had on car was absolutely beautiful.
How good does that look, huh? Doug, check it out.
It
bling,
looks,
bling.
Sam, it looks absolutely wonderful. I mean, it was a little bit of work, but it came out absolutely beautiful.
And that's only because you made a new frame, so we had to weld the brackets for the bumper onto the frame and then line up everything. So that's the only reason why it took 9 hours.
Yeah, you know, we also got very lucky with the Bumper Depot. I was able to do an exchange, so I didn't have to wait for my old bumper to get done and then come on back. The exchange looks absolutely fantastic.
And the price was right. Next week, join us. We're going to be doing the rear bumper, and hopefully it won't be as hard as the front one, but I doubt that.
We'll look forward to it.
I got my Supra in the shop. I took out the 2JZ engine. I'm going with a turbocharged LS engine and a 6-speed behind it, going from an automatic back to a manual. I need a front drive accessory kit, but I don't need the AC. So I went to LSX Concepts. They got a very nice kit that comes with everything you need to install this in your LS engine. Nice, lightweight, strong, billet aluminum brackets, all the hardware and shims you need, OEM quality accessories along with the water pump detentioner. They have a lot of different kits. They come with AC, a lot of different variations as well. The cool thing is that if you have an iron 6-liter block, you know that there isn't a hole threaded for the bottom portion where the power steering pump goes, similar to like a GTO. On the aluminum blocks, that thread is there. On the iron blocks, it's not. This kit works in both applications, so you don't have to go in and drill that hole out. That's very nice. LSX Concepts is especially known for their LSA Super.
Welcome back to more Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Nora and Nelson from ACC Performance stopped by Sam's Garage to help install a new Boss Hog torque converter in Sam's 49 Chevy truck. Nora helps break down all the parts of the torque converter and how they transfer the power from the engine to the transmission.
Behind me, I got a 49 Chevy truck, of which I put a Hemi 5.7 liter Gen 3 engine in it, and of course the transmission. And who do I have here with me? Nora and Nelson from Boss Hog Torque Converters. Take it away, Nora.
We're gonna build a torque converter.
So to start with, we've got this top part, or what's known as also the pump. The angle of these fins are a big play in how you can get that much more stall out of a torque converter, depending upon the angles of this fins. The more clockwise you get, the lower the stall. The counterclockwise will increase the stall. Now that in combination, Nora showed the Torrington heavy duty bearings that we'll put in here. This right here, we put Torrington encased bearings all throughout to handle that extra power. Now, if you'll notice, the stator has different kinds of pitch of fins all the way through this. That also helps control stall. Now, the main purpose of the stator is to apply back pressure on the turbine and overcome slip in the stall, and then that back pressure, as more fluid is coming through, it's like a cup. That's what will grab that fluid and then begin to push and turn and begin to drive the vehicle. The welds that we do on our turbines. Now we make our own turbine hubs in-house with our own Doosan 310N CNC machine. Now Nora here actually runs it from time to time. So as you see this right here, this is a special kind of weld called spray arc transfer. The deposition rate is literally 6 to 8 times stronger than that of your normal globule welding that you see from a lot of other people. So this will actually fit in place, and actually the veins on this actually line up. This is going to be turning in essence this way, and once the stall speed overcomes, it's going to begin to reverse and begin to drive the car. And then we put another Torrington style bearing in the back for durability and longevity of the torque converter. And then we're going to match up the front cover to what particular transmission we've got going on. Some other torque converters may have lockups for overdrive style. This one here is a turbo 350 setup for that regular turbo hydromatic. And again, we are using that special weld right here, which is extremely clean and extremely strong, allowing you that much more power and keeping weight off of the torque converter.
The way the torque converter works is what allows the car to stay running at a stop without shutting off a car like a manual with a clutch.
That's correct. Both diameters and stators and the pitch of the fins all have something to do with it. Mainly we're getting into centrifugal forces. So it's not, stall ranges are not fixed. They could vary drastically. There are 7,300 variables in matching up a stall. I don't know if you've ever had a half-ton pickup truck and it's four-wheel drive. If you were to go out on the street and do a power brake test, normally you'd see about 2,000 to 2,200 RPM. You roll up 10 feet, no changes to the truck, you put it in four-wheel drive low. In essence, just doubling the gear ratio alone can take out 1,500 to 1,800 RPM stall out of the torque converter.
And also the viscosity in the fluid will aid in the stall.
Yes, and also torque multiplication.
And so this Chevy truck, it's just got a basic 5.7 liter Hemi that I built on season 8. It's not gonna have a power adder or anything like that. It'll probably be around 400 horsepower. And so this is perfect for what we're gonna be using because it's pretty tight, right?
Yes.
Like a street stall on this one.
It's got about 300 to 500 overstock.
There you go.
Now that is generally about 500 to 800 pounds lighter than your Charger or Challengers and stuff like that. So that will actually change the stall. So we tried to match that.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. After learning how a torque converter works, it's time to get it installed in Sam's 49 Chevy truck. The truck has a Gen 3 Hemi engine swapped in, so the new torque converter will help transfer the power to the transmission. Boss Hog torque converters are built to last, and they'll ensure this Chevy stays on the road for years to come.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage. We're going to install this torque converter into Sam's truck.
We're about to take this transmission out. I like to use gloves like this instead of the latex gloves when working on something that does not have fluid involved in it. When you use these with fluid, it gets saturated, then it's over. You gotta get another pair. So I like to use them as long as I can and do it in situations like this or exhaust systems or something like that, you know? When you guys install your torque converter for the first time, it's gonna be dry. You wanna pour a little bit of fluid in there, just so when you first crank it, it's not dry. It's gonna take some time for it to bubble in there. You can spill some, it's okay. And you guys make sure that when you install this, you hear that last thud where it bottoms out, and make sure it's fully seated before you put the transmission back up into the car, okay? We got the wrong flex plate. The part number is off by 1 digit at the end. So this is where it's very important to stop when you have a problem or a bind, so you don't cost yourself more money by breaking the torque converter, the front pump, or the transmission itself. Because I am in the mock-up phase with this Chevy truck, I'm gonna go ahead and continue installing my transmission torque converter in it because I need to get a drive shaft length and I need to do a couple other things before. So while I'm waiting for the flex plate to come, I'm gonna go ahead with my install. All right, Nora, see, we got the transmission in, we got our nice cross member in, we have a urethane motor mount because you always have to have insulation, okay? So you don't have vibration, it's gonna vibrate all the bolts loose in the truck. We don't want that, right? Driving down the road, the door falls off, you know what I mean? It's bad enough it's gonna open on itself, right? And you see we got the manifolds up there, so all we gotta do now is run some exhaust. We're gonna measure our drive shaft, and when you measure your drive shaft, in this case, we're gonna go from the surface of this flange, and we're gonna go out here to the surface here of the yoke. And when you do your measurement, you're gonna come to this point right here. That's the half portion of the end cap for the U-joint. Give that measurement to your drive shaft guy, and he's gonna make us a new drive shaft, right? This one's gonna have to have a slip yoke and a coupler because it's a bolt-in flange on that side, right? And then if you look at the floor, uh-oh, what is that? That looks like it's gonna have to be modified, doesn't it? So we're gonna cut this all up, put it over the transmission, make a little hump for it, weld it in place, put carpet over it, you'll never know it's there, right? What do you think about this cool Hemi in a GMC truck, or Chevy truck, should I say?
I like it.
Yeah, and when it's done, I'll come and pick you up, we'll go for a ride.
So what we've actually found out is the transmission was at the wrong angle because the transmission jack. So we actually had it up a little too high. By dropping the back end of the transmission down, it allowed the crankshaft pilot to properly align so that we could get rid of our gap.
The Mercedes transmission has a plug right here. These things are notorious for leaking fluid through the connector. And then if you let it go too long, the fluid will wick up through the wires and actually contaminate the TCU, the transmission control unit. So if you guys see any leaking or your mechanics see any leaking starting, what you want to do is replace this by replacing this piece right here that goes into the valve body. It's an easy deal, it's inexpensive, it's going to save you a lot of money and heartache in the future. Well, that turned out pretty good. The torque converter install went well, and I think it's going to drive really good on the street.
Can I drive it?
Absolutely, in about 4 years.
No.
All right, take it away.
Bye.
Be sure to check out Sam's Garage on these other media platforms. Send us questions and feedback to info@samsgaragetv.com. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Sam's Garage. The Lokar boys installed the rear suspension on the Jeep Wrangler. The 57 Thunderbird has a shiny new chrome front bumper. Nora and Nelson broke down how a torque converter works, and then helped Sam install the new torque converter in his '49 Chevy pickup.